Hello and welcome to the second episode of Decoded. Can we call it Decoded again? Are we back? Yeah, we're back for now. Welcome to the second episode of the Decoded podcast. New style for the War Within Alpha season, I suppose. We're once again joined by Ishura, and this time we're going to talk about everything we came across in the second zone of the War Within Alpha, which is the Ringing Deeps. Jeff from the future here. We completely forgot to mention that this podcast contains spoilers. We are a story-based channel, so we're going to talk about story, and it's pretty much not possible to do that without spoiling things. So if you want to remain unspoiled for the War Within Alpha in any sort of way, this isn't the video for you, and I suggest you come back sometime before or after December 31st when we should be getting the War Within released from Blizzard. We are done in Dorne. We fixed the Coreway entrance. We go down into the depths. We are no longer kicked by Blizzard for being where we're not supposed to be. And everything is pretty much in shambles, right?
Yeah, I brought this up to a friend, but I was like, you know how Dorne is existentialism about life and death?
Yep.
I joked that Ringing Deeps is existentialism about capitalism.
Yep, exactly.
You get there, and it's mostly the machine speakers who live in the Ringing Deeps, so it's like the people who work with the machines.
I think these are so you had the Unbound and the Titan faction up top in Dorne. I don't think there's any Unbound down here. I'm pretty sure like all the machine speakers are mostly like, yeah, we got a job from the Titans and by darn it, we'll do it.
Yeah, I noticed that. There is, I don't want to get too much off into a tangent. There is a small quest line where you meet an Earthen whose edict is to be a compiler, and he does, I think that's the only time in the Ringing Deeps where they mention the Unbound, because he's like, TLDR, the quest line being that he doesn't want to break his oath, but he wants to step aside and do something else for a while. And so he like directly tells you, he's like, I'm not going to be one of the Unbound. That's not me. I'm not going to do that.
I just want a vacation.
Yes.
But no, this is, wow, capitalism. You cannot have vacation.
Yeah, you literally, like, you can talk to Earthen. There's a quest to give them like waivers for opportunity point, and they're like, I can't really take a break right now. And there's multiple points on the quests where they talk about how all of the mass Earthen shutdowns have led to severe understaffing. So everyone's being overworked. And it is seriously bleak when you think about the fact that the Earthen don't sleep because they're machines. So they're literally working 24/7.
Until they literally shut down because they can't recharge themselves. Yeah. Great. Okay, that's the thumbnail. Existential dread. Nope. Capitalism until you die.
Can't wait to see what existential crisis the next zone leaves me with.
Yeah. So far we've got 2 for 2. And like spoiler alert, at the end of the thing, Anduin leads you into the next zone. And your boy needs therapy. So that's going to be a good thing.
Existential therapy.
Yeah. Everything's in shambles. What Earthen we find are either working themselves to death or wondering why no one in upper management wants to tell them the truth. Which is also... Yeah. I don't know, is this like, Blizz developers like unconsciously or subconsciously or consciously like, yeah, let's not go in there now, but it's very now-ish in terms of like feel.
Yeah, there was that very early on, I think it's in the first few quests, where Speaker Brinth says that she was sent to Dorne because she wasn't being reasonable. Oh, God, and that was the moment that I was like,
oh, girl.
Oh. questioned her superiors a little too much.
Yep. Even though they're machines, they've got the whole corporate entity stuff down pat. That's going to be interesting.
I mean, it's fascinating considering how much they defer to the Titans too and follow their edicts without really questioning that, right? Like there's layers there.
Yeah, they are all about like doing what needs to be done for the Titans' plan and keeping all the old and new machines working. But in so doing, they've sort of created this like almost business-like this large corporate world almost for themselves, where nothing. How do you say? Like corporate shenanigans are not unknown to them. They are very. I mean, there's literally storyline wise, you go in there with Moira, Dagran, and Magni. And Magni and Dagran pretty much go on a investigation adventure, while Moira goes like, these guys need to stand up for themselves. I'm going to help them rebel.
I like how so much of Moira's part in this is informed by her history. Like, you don't need to know her lore to understand what's going on, but I like all of the subtle nods to like her past and what she had to deal with as sort of the Dark Iron representative, while also being Magni's daughter. So I don't know dwarf lore that crazy well, and so after I went through the zone like 1.5 times, I went back to look more deeply into the Moira lore, and there's a lot of it actually. Like there's the Shattering, and then there's the comics, because I think there's a Legion comic and a BFA comic.
Yeah, there's I know, like, at the start we quote unquote save her from her husband. Sorry about that. Then she disappears from the stage a little bit, and then in Cataclysm she returns quite suddenly when Magni gets turned into Diamond. That's when they form. That's when they form the Council of the Three Hammers, sort of pushed by Varian and the rest of the Alliance to like, hey, guys, play nice amongst each other. The Alliance needs you, and you need the Alliance. So, also, I want my son back. Because at that point, Anduin was in Ironforge when Moira declared martial law and tried to take over. And she
remember it better than I do.
Yeah, and she wanted to keep Anduin there as sort of like a bargaining chip.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with someone. I was like, she was sort of mean and unlikable. Like she had a very antagonistic position, and I like that she's been softened a bit, but also that we understand more of where that comes from. And it's more explicit, I think, in like the War Within intro, like the lead up quests in Dalaran, than this zone per se. But I do like how you get hints of it. Like there's a line really early on where she talks about how sometimes diplomacy requires stirring the pot. And I was like, ooh, girl, you've done a lot of pot stirring in your life.
Exactly. I mean, you don't just go into a city and basically kidnap a friend, an allied prince, and then and then go, that's not stirring the pot. The pot, that's just, good business? I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like, and I haven't read The Shattering anytime recently. I skimmed it, so I'm maybe running with this interpretation. But I feel like she really struggled a lot with her identity and daddy issues, so to speak. Because I know when I was skimming, a lot of the stuff that comes up sort of both in the War Within intro and in the comics and stuff is that she always thought that Magni wanted a son. She didn't really feel like the proper heir. And we learned honestly, just in Cataclysm from the Shattering, because I was skimming it, I saw this part specifically where one of Magni's guards talks about how like he felt really bad, and so he like never renounced her as his heir or anything. Like he always wanted her to follow after him, and then she talks to him when like he's in Diamond about her insecurities, and he hears her, and they have that conversation at the end of the Legion comic where he sort of reaffirms and tells her, you know, that he wants her to be his heir, he loves her, and I feel like that doesn't.
I've always been proud of your ass. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't. It feels like it doesn't really come full circle until now. Like literally, this zone when I think Magni's accepted her all these years. I feel like this was her chance to finally accept herself.
Yeah, and there is like one side quest line that also gets us into that. We'll come back to that. That's what I was thinking about. We'll come back to that a little later because that is a side quest. So, like I said, circling back to the main campaign quest line, Magni and Dagran go to investigate because there's been Earthen missing all over the place. And eventually, you go into a little mining town, I think. You do a little investigation quest, and you find some leftover Earthen who turn into Skardin, into voidy monsters. And that's how you pretty much get on the trail towards the Awakening Machine. What was it? The Awakening Machine, I think they called it.
Mm-hmm. The Hall of Awakening.
The Hall of Awakening. So yeah, there's one of the speakers is, I think, or was it a speaker or a foreman? That's missing, that you know, like follow, and then eventually you find her, and then she turns into foreman. The foreman. So there's a foreman missing, which leads to all sorts of her underlings missing as well. So you go search for the foreman, you investigate, you find the foreman, and she's barricaded herself inside of a cavern, and then by the time you find her, she's pretty much a giant void monster. Mm-hmm. Because that's what's been spreading. And you find her memory gem, and the memory gem reveals that it's been Xal'atath all along. Because obviously.
It makes sense.
Yeah. She was like, I'm done bringing down this city. What else can I stir up? Speaking of stirring the pot, holy moly. So Xal'atath, as it turns out, did us all a solid by repairing the Chamber of Awakening. Only just now,
with a little void sauce on top.
Yeah, exactly. She uploaded some malware. So now instead of awakening Earthen, re-energizing Earthen in stasis, it re-energizes them into Skardin. And from that point on in the questline, pretty much the whole area is swarming with Skardin. And I think it was also a pretty... So eventually, like the finale quest of that, you go into a sort of a dungeon-like scenario with Magni, Dagran, and Moira to actually reach the Chamber of Awakening and to shut it down or to fix the problem, pretty much, because it's been invaded by the Void and Skardin and all of that. And I think that's one point that was really interesting, is that like once you are in there, you're fighting waves of Skardin, and Magni notices like they never asked for this. They never asked to be awakened and turn into these. And I'm like, I'm sensing a parallel here, Magni. You want to talk about it?
Yes. He's so angry.
Oh yeah. He literally has like the short dialogue when you click on him. He goes like, I speak for no one. For Azeroth.
He's like mad. Like I didn't realize, and then a friend messaged me and was like, go click on Magni, go see what he has to say. And I was like, oh, he's pissed.
He is.
He's done.
I mean, like if the Earthen haven't been able to talk to upper management in recently, Magni hasn't been able to talk to upper management in years.
Yeah.
But things do end up on the bright side, I think. In
Yeah,
what
I wanna talk about that spicy ending.
Oh, it was definitely a spicy ending. And from the text that you see, like at the event, so the alpha text, I'm not quite sure what they called it again, but I'm pretty sure they called it like an in-game pre-rendered cinematic or something. That's a Terran and Team cinematic, 100%. That's not gonna be like in-game, in-model with like the player character in there. That's gonna be like full 3D, full effects pass, all of it, I think. And
I had varying stages of reaction to that, and the first reaction I had was to seeing like cinematic movie instead of real-time cutscene, and I was like, oh, like something's happening here.
Yeah. And I'm also like judging from what's gonna happen. I think this might be one of those. We could be seeing one of those. What's the green dragon? The cinematic adventure. Ysera. Like that level of like emotional, because Magni pretty much sacrificed himself, not knowing what's gonna happen. And then,
but he doesn't die.
He doesn't die. I mean, we know that because of what the text claims and what we see from him afterwards. But I would imagine that like we're gonna get that scene. He's gonna sacrifice himself, and then when the smoke clears, he's gonna be like frozen, and you know, Dagran and Moira go like, "Dad." Then like maybe like violin music, single tear stuff, and then one crack in the diamond, two cracks, and then like, bam, he's still alive and he's back to flesh and bone, because that's a thing.
I have so many questions about that. I was like, what does this mean? What just happened? Like he
I thought
effectively
he curse of fleshed himself.
Yeah, he pulled a Velen without actually sacrificing himself. It just, I feel like it's also maybe not super clear from the text, or I also just don't understand what like his diamond form means. I know early on in Dorne they call him a Thragar, and I expect we'll get more context for that maybe explains sort of why he can do this and what goes on here. But he's
Thragarnt now.
He sacrifices, like, I guess, the crystalline energy.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what exactly happens there, and I'm sure I'm not sure we'll get those answers. That's probably going to be like a BlizzCon question, like, "Yo, guys, you showed us this. What does it mean story-wise?"
Yeah,
you need to wear a red shirt and ask, but
because it'll be very visual.
Yeah.
So he quote sacrifices the crystalline energy to purify the Hall of Awakening, which is also huge, and that's why I was like, he pulled a villain. He just purified a void thing.
Yeah.
But like, what the heck? Like, this diamond, I don't know what to call it. I think it says crystal or something in the cinematics text.
But on the other hand, like I'm not quite sure which book again it was, but in one of the books, he goes and visits Thunderbluff, and he needs to get teleported up to Thunderbluff because he can't use the elevators because he's too heavy. So it's not just a outer layer of diamond or something. No, he's made of solid rock of a certain type, which is so dense and heavy that he cannot use wooden elevator things, like lore-wise. So it's not like, oh, the outer thing cracks and he's flesh beneath. He was completely diamond until he does whatever he does to fix the Hall of Awakening.
Yeah, I'm just stuck on if, like, he did that in the first place to commune with Azeroth, so I'm assuming it's an Azeroth-given power and is connected to Azeroth. So I'm like, did he just use, like, not Azerite, but, like, Azerite equivalent / the power of the World Soul to purify the Void? And in doing so, like, got rid of it in himself?
Like, pretty much like we did at the end of BFA when we, like, blasted N'Zoth.
Yeah.
Very similar, at least.
Turns out Magni could have done that by himself all along.
Well, what did we need to gather that cloak for? On all our alts, just so we can go in there week after week to get a mount that'll never drop. I'm sorry, am I projecting?
Honestly, though, I am very curious to see if we'll get more context, because I just want to understand better about, like, was it just the power of Azeroth that helped him do that? And how? What does the Thragar mean? How does it connect to this? Yeah. And how did he fleshify? And how
will they interact with him now? Like, wait, you're no longer one of us. You're fleshy now.
Oh yeah, that too. I didn't think about that.
Also, like, and of course, his immediate family will be like, "Yay, we got Dad/Grandpa back." But does this mean like he no longer speaks for Azeroth? Like he cannot because he's no longer the way he was, even though Azeroth has had him on like message received and not responded for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Also, we still don't know what his vision was when he first started to talk to Azeroth, like in the opening thing. So.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like because of the Radiant song and everyone else is getting visions now, he probably doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Speaker. Just gonna have more controversial dwarven politics on our hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and that opens him up to pretty much have more story beats with his family, and we've seen that happen in the last couple of expansions, that one of the heroes gets their moment in expansion X, and then over the course of the expansion, their story gets resolved. For example, Bolvar gets pulled back into things for Shadowlands, and by the end of it, Shadowlands is done. We've saved the worlds and all that, and they're sort of chilling in Oribos ever since. And the same pretty much for the Dragonflights. I mean, now we've fixed the Dragonflights. They've all got their ancestral and spectral powers back, and they will be shelved again now. And so now we end up at the dwarves, Magni and Moira. So I'm expecting like the same thing, like whatever issues they have and whatever issues they will run into, they will probably be solved. Or no, of course, this is the first expansion in the World Soul saga, so for all we know, their storyline will continue on into the other two expansions. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like there has been a move lately to sort of retire a lot of the older, bigger lore characters, like Malfurion and Tyrande.
That was what I was trying to very eloquently and trying to get to. Like, okay, I'm fully expecting we'll be retiring Magni, at least in like a story influencing character, but I don't want him to be dead and buried, but we'll probably be like, okay, he's had his story moment, he's learned his lessons, and we're going to put you down here to perhaps call back to again sometime if we need you, but we're going to go on and continue with character X.
Yeah. We get like the new Avengers team now.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
It does. Because I know Moira has been a big character, but I'm sort of getting the feeling that maybe Magni will. I can't imagine that he wouldn't abdicate, but he also sort of already did abdicate, because when he came back in Legion, he was like, I'm not going to be king. You keep your
I'm the speaker for Azeroth now. I've got other business to attend to.
Yeah.
You three manage Ironforge. Now, though.
Like Moira's still going to be in her position of power, and then prepping for like Dagran's takeover, which is a whole separate can of worms, but I love politics.
King Dagran. Yeah, let's survive the war within first, then fix whatever void thing happens in Midnight, and then awaken the final Titan. And maybe if Dagran is still alive after that, he can, sit on the throne of Ironforge and read his books.
I'm getting ahead of myself, but if there's a trend in retiring like the older, bigger lore characters for a new cast, and Midnight's next, who's taking Lorthamir's place?
Oh yeah, he's been
Because he's probably just gonna go like honeymoon with Felicera and chill
for like a couple of centuries because they're elves. And
yeah.
And we don't really, in terms of Blood Elves or the Nightborn, we don't really have other important characters besides Lorthamar and his wife.
Yeah, there's like Liadrin, but I would also consider her like one of the old guard.
She's been around for ages too, so I'm curious to see
new cast of characters.
New cast of characters, yeah. I mean, maybe the Blood Elf that's with the expedition. What's her name? With Renan?
Ladia?
That one. Maybe she will, but of course that's just at this point that's grasping as well. I was like, oh, that's the one Blood Elf that's been in any way interesting so far this early in the expansion. Who knows? We're just spitballing.
I guess like Liadrin's adopted daughter, because she had like a quest in Shadowlands. I don't remember her name. Starts with an S. I should look this up. Solandria.
I either skipped those quests or completely forgot them. But then again, I am an Alliance player, so...
Me too. I don't even remember what it was for.
Yeah.
It's, she, like, has been set up to be sort of a bigger character, but I don't know. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll figure that out next expansion.
Exactly. So, circling back, we got the whole quest line finished at the Chamber of Awakening. The chamber is fixed. I'm assuming that also unlocks the Earthen. The Earthen allied race. I'm assuming that also unlocks the Earthen allied race because I'm pretty sure like that area is the opening. What do you call it? The login screen for Earthen characters. Where you create your character, that background, that is the Chamber of Awakening. And we didn't get any achievements upon finishing that quest, so either that it's not input in the alpha yet, or it's unlocked in another way.
I think there will be a separate unlock quest line, but that's sort of the story beat that gets us there to where we probably can do that quest line to then unlock them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I would imagine that this campaign quest line is at least the start of unlocking that part. But anyway, okay, so
I did not expect us to fix the Hall of Awakening this early in the storyline. I legit thought it was going to be like a endgame campaign thing.
Yeah, it's a little early.
It's nice and like
actually alpha. Actually very early, because we literally we learn in zone 1 that we've got a problem. Think shit's broken, yo. Zone 2, quote unquote, 2-3 hours later, yo, we fixed it. We good.
Literally. I was like, it's nice in the alpha time frame because we have to wait a week between zones. Yeah, but I feel like when it comes out and you do it all in one day, it's sort of like, oh, we're so
awesome. We fixed everything.
Yeah.
We're Mary suing this place. I'm that at the same time, that makes me live, okay, this can't be it. This can't be the fix to all the problems, at least not in terms of...
Yeah, like, how does it get worse?
The problem was twofold, of course. The Chamber of Awakening was borked, as well as the memory archive. The memory archive hasn't been mentioned in this zone at all, so I'm assuming that's still an issue.
True. Yeah.
And fixing the Chamber of Awakening... I doubt this is like, okay, we fixed that, let's continue on. But we'll have to see what story beats we see in other areas.
I feel like Dorne and the Raining Deeps really feel like two parts of one zone.
Yeah.
Because the story's so connected. Like, there's a lot of things in the Raining Deeps too, which rehash what you learn in Dorne regarding the Earthen and the archives and the Hall of Awakening. And so it makes sense, I guess, coming at the end of that story, and the next week we're gonna get a complete pivot switch
complete
to
180 into Hallowfall and humans, or like what's left of the humans that went there. And yeah, that's going to be totally different. I'm excited as well to see what happens there. This time featuring Anduin.
Yes.
So yeah, that pretty much leads us right into like the finishing of that campaign quest line. So Magni's back to flesh. The speaker Brithna is now the High Speaker, because the original High Speaker was in league with Xal'atath, it turns out.
Yes.
He would rather have them all subject to the Void and transformed by the Void than have them shut down. Which, I mean, there's something to say for that. It's like trying to do a good thing, but in a bad way. Which also catches on into a side quest where we would want to discuss, is that the side quest where you go on an adventure with Moira to retrieve Fearbreaker, Magni's old hammer. And there's actually an Earthen involved in that calls himself a hero. But
oh my god, he's the worst.
Is everything but. He is. So you get there, and the hammer is pretty much guarded by Genesaur, one of the plant.
Not literally a Genesaur, but like the same model.
Same model. So plant monster. It's guarding the hammers, and you gather up some reagents so that you can safely, quote unquote, sneak up to it and grab the hammer. Turns out that's not safe. You have to fight the beast.
Were we misled?
We were misled. We were so misled by this dirty, not good for anything, backstabbing piece of Earthen, which is interesting because so far we haven't really met a whole lot of Earthen with a personality, so to speak. Or at least not like like all of the Earthen, like the of course no personality is exaggerating a little bit, but this guy did not really wasn't about my purpose is this and that and that. His purpose is being a hero, he claims, and he will do anything and everything to help other people as long as he can be the hero while doing that. And that sort of bites him in the butt when he steals Fearbreaker, and Fearbreaker does like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna help you with that.
Mm-hmm. Mostly to get to the end of that quest line. So I'd forgotten when we went through that, and I was streaming it, so I was asking chat. I was like, didn't Magni give Anduin Fearbreaker? And he did, and then Anduin gave it to Bane, and then Bane gave it back. And then
Anduin, no, Bane gave it back to Anduin, and then Anduin gave it back to Magni at the start of Legion, or no, at the start of BFA, because Magni goes like, we need to do something about this sword in the world. I'm gonna need a weapon. Yo, ants.
Oh yeah. And I was not big on dwarf lore, so it wasn't until that point when Moira picks it up and then sort of reflects on her past and stuff about it, I was like, wow, it was really crappy of Magni to give that to anyone other than his child. Like, so I guess he gave it to Anduin in the Shattering, didn't he? Guys,
I think so, yeah. He goes like, I shall give this to my favorite son. And then Moira's like just off screen, like,
yeah, because that would have been when she was out of the picture and disappeared. Yeah. So I mean, get it, but it feels bad.
She had a baby out of wedlock. She married the enemy, had a baby. So Magni was dealing with things regarding that. So it sort of makes sense that he wouldn't give it to her and instead give it to Anduin. But still, it was like, eh. But now finally she has it, even though she doesn't. She keeps on claiming that she doesn't want it. She's purely grabbing it so that she can give it back to Magni. But I'm curious.
Like
we may
so much of that Sorry, I'm too excited. I feel like so much of that was connected to her own opinion about herself. That like Fearbreaker was a metaphor for the Bronzebeard legacy, and that if it accepted her and she accepted it, that would mean that she really was
a Bronzebeard, not just a Dark Iron like she wants to be.
And I think she was scared of that because I jumped into this earlier. She always felt like her father wanted a son. She didn't really feel like the heir that he wanted. She didn't feel like she belonged or was proper. And that's why I love this quest so much. It's like a story of self-acceptance and coming to terms with it and really owning who she is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we see her handing it to Magni at the end of that storyline. She basically, that storyline pretty much ends, and when you get back to her and Magni, they're like in the state of just having finished the Chamber of Awakening. I don't think there's any new like Magni having the hammer or she like still having the hammer. I could be mistaken, but
she does try to give it back to him.
Okay.
And he tells her, he says something about how it sits right in her hand, like it belongs there. So she should keep it. If you missed it, I think I probably took a screenshot of it or something, so I can. But it's actually very brief.
Yeah. So I probably just missed it in my wave of doing the side quests. I'll go check. I'll log into the alpha after this and see if I missed some. Stay a while and listen, sort of thing. But okay, so Moira. Long story short, Jeff, you're wrong. Moira does keep it for now. And I'm curious to see where that will lead. So that
I was so happy we got that moment though, because I was like, God, I want her to go back and try to give it to Magni and have him tell her, no, you keep it. Like is like the official sort of pass down. He's like, no, you are my heir. You are a Bronzebeard, no matter what. I was really happy we got that.
You're the son I have. You're the son I always wanted, sort of thing. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up the big story points regarding our main trio of dwarves. Dagran sort of does his thing. He doesn't really have any major story beats. I think he just goes in there, does some Indiana Jones stuff, does some machine stuff. And
he's an excited little adventurer who gets his first taste of the real world and
gets to go out on a stomping adventure with Grandpa.
Yeah.
So that pretty much wraps up the story points. Now, there were a couple of interesting quests as well. We also didn't actually talk about the kobolds yet, because you also find a kobold that's been chained up by the Candle King, which is like the big baddie kobold in the area. And you spend some time with him. You liberate him. You start to convince some of the other kobolds, like, hey, yo, we don't need to put up with this guy. And we actually can, shack up with these stoneheads, as they call them, the Earthen. And they actually join them in the quests in the quest hub, which is where what would they call it again?
Gundargaz?
Yeah, Gundargaz. So that pretty much creates a little quest hub for the Kobold faction, which is actually like a full-on renown faction. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, kobolds are one of those things that I feel like we don't have a lot of lore about. And something that I completely didn't realize, but is cool just for context, I guess. I was like, where do the kobolds come from? Did we ever learn that? We did. In the WoW magazine, in like Brand's evolutionary chart.
I will have to check that, because I've got that like right behind me in my
literally
bookcase.
Right, yeah. He speculates that they evolved from the Trogs. And the Trogs were like the proto blueprint for the Earthen. And so it struck me. I was like, it's so perfect having the kobolds here, because they're like cousins to the Earthen in the same way that the dwarves are sort of cousins to these Earthen.
I don't think if that's been ever like retconned or changed or anything, and I hate to do the actually thing, but wasn't it that the Earthen were dwarves that just where the curse of flesh went a little wonky. Something like that. I think I remember something like that happening way back in Classic when you go to Uldaman and you find the discs of Norgonon and go like, wait, we're related. And Bran goes like, wait, we're related? Or the dwarves? Yeah.
When the Titan Keepers first made Titan Forged, they made the Trogs and decided that was no good. So then they made the Earthen, and they made many different batches of Earthen, and the Earthen who were in Uldaman were the ones that were afflicted with the curse of flesh and became the dwarves as we know them today.
Yeah.
And then there's the Earthen on Kaz Algar who were
completely immune to the
millennia.
Yeah, they were immune to the curse of flesh. And then and then we've also got like the iron Earthen up in Northrend.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're right. There's quite a couple of batches, and it could be that the Trogs were pretty much like, oh yeah, the Titans' first failed attempt, and they were like put in stasis or whatever, and then 5,000 years later, they attacked Nomuragan, for which we are still angry about. So okay, kobolds could very well be related in some distant way to Earthen and to dwarves. We spent some time liberating them and welcoming them into the quest hub. And then they give you a quest to fix some steam pipes. I'm pretty sure I spent more time on that quest than I did for like 2 or 3 campaign quests, because turns out I suck at sliding puzzles.
I was so confused. Yeah. I told you this. I was doing it on stream and I was expecting someone in chat to help. I was like, chat, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then I realized after like 10 minutes, I think it was just broken. Because I never got
you got like a broken set of like this has literally no solution. And I just know that in the edits for this podcast, I'm just going to show like me successfully completing them, like have screenshots of like this solution, that solution, that solution. I don't care about spoilers. I don't want anyone else to suffer that. But yeah, so that little quest pretty much says like gives you a pop-up of like a mini game where you can always slide. There's always one square that's open, so you can slide the other squares around, and you have to basically align the pipes. Like for example, you do that sort of like BioShock. There used to be one of the hacking mini games in that game. It was also all about fixing pipes and directing flows to somewhere. This is going to be a daily quest. I just know it. At some point during the whole Kobold renown, that's going to be a daily quest, and I'm gonna hate it. Congratulations,
Blizzard. Go the way of the Zereth Mortis puzzles.
Yeah. But it was a fun new thing. I applaud them for trying something new. And this is 100% just me not liking that sort of puzzle. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get better at it. I liked
the idea, but I think it was mostly because I connected the pipes like it was green, but I didn't get credit for it, so I still thought I was doing it wrong.
Yeah,
and that's
also,
what I was like.
One thing that was also annoying is like, and that's of course an alpha thing. You got in the quest, you got in that little menu that you do the mini game. There's one button that resets the state back to what it was at the start. So if you mess up too much, you can always reset. There was no exit. There was no buff to right click and get out of there. It was like, you're stuck until you solve this. And like, I've been stuck here for 15 minutes. I want out.
Yeah, I had to log out. I was like...
same. I had to just like Alt F4. And so that was one of my alpha bug submissions. That's for sure.
Yeah, I need an exit button. Yeah. Get me out of here.
Yeah. So that was one of the interesting quests. Also, one of the other interesting quests, or at least what I found funny, which is a very small thing. At some point, one of the kobolds wants to help one of the Earthen keep the machines in order. And you have to do this little mini game where the Earthen calls out which machine is broken and you have to click it. And like one of the things is one of those consoles, so one of the keypad things, and you need to perform percussive maintenance. And as an IT professional, I'm like, yep, just give it a slap and maybe it'll work. That was very relatable.
That was so funny to me too. After our like Earthen primer video, I was like, oh look, they did it too.
Exactly. I mean, that pretty much, maybe that's what Magni does in the Azawang. He just like, he goes in there, his diamond body just like absorbs the brunt of the void energy. Well, he just smashes the machine until it starts working again. Who knows?
Just takes a rock to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Taryn, if you like the idea, just, let me know and I'll happily brainstorm a script with you. And I think after that, I'm pretty sure the only interesting quest beats that I have left to talk about is one of the Kobold quests, where you basically reenact old Kobold fairy tales as told by Granny, what's her name? Granny Whiskers?
Scribbles?
Oh, Scribbles. Anyway, the Grandma Kobold. She tells you, I think, 3 or 4 fairy tales where you act out being a kobold. I'm not quite sure. At least in this state of the alpha, you just look like yourself. Maybe at some point you will.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that would be fun. Like if they turn you either into a kobold or if they turn you into like a kobold disguise.
You do get shrunk.
You do get shrunk. So you are like at the start, you are kobold size. And I believe even in the first one where the story about the little kobold that kept on gathering food while her flame was going out. So it gets darker as you progress through that quest line. I also think that the further you go in that quest, the darker it goes, the smaller you shrink to reinforce like the big, because all the big scary scorpions and spiders, they all seem to get bigger. I was like, they're not getting bigger. I'm getting smaller.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Those quests were so bleak in general. Oh, yeah. Like, there was maybe one that had a happy ending.
Yeah. There was, I think there's like one happy ending, and she literally goes like, how about a fun story in between? Because I'm pretty sure like 3 out of the 4, 3 out of the 5 are like Brothers Grimm.
About gruesome, bloody deaths.
Exactly. They are all, those are all like cautionary tales. Like, no, don't ever leave without a second candle. Don't, blah, blah, that sort of thing.
Where they talk about the day the Earthen came and the Earthen just killed them all had me like, does anyone else feel really weird that we're sitting in like an Earthen house right now, surrounded by Earthen? I was
and the funny thing is, after that quest, when you get back into the inn where she tells the story, there are actually a couple of Earthen like sitting there like, interesting story.
Yes. I feel like I think more get added during the quests, and so I think out of that one, instead of 1 Earthen, there's like 2 there listening now, and I was like, I would not have. That feels so awkward. Yeah. But she like does acknowledge it, and she's like, oh, but we're friends now, I guess.
Yeah, the Earthen were terrible, but not you. You're friends. You're good people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
That'll be interesting to see how those two cultures continue to mishmash with each other.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that you could also say is exaggerated because she's telling a story. But I mean, the quest literally ends with the Earthen like killing all of the kobold. I don't know. It just felt bad.
I also like how in that quest you beat back a couple of Earthen and you gather some stuff, and one of those is like life savings, and it's just a whole bunch of candles.
Yes.
And objects of industry, and it's just like sharp tools and whatnot, and it's like nice.
I love that kobold world building. They're things from their POV.
Yeah. I'm liking that as well. And the final quest, the final tale, pretty much tells the story of how the kobolds made their way to the surface world, which has you climbing a very, very tall spire until you get to a crack in the ceiling. And if you go into the crack in the ceiling, you end up where you're not supposed to be, and you get teleported back to Stormwind. Yeah. And you can't complete the quest. So Alpha's gonna alpha.
Until beta.
Yeah, still beta. So that was another other bug that was reported.
One day we'll make it back to the surface.
Exactly. Because so when you get teleported back, the quest doesn't complete. So the only option you have is to talk to Granny again to start the whole scenario. And it's pretty much just an endless loop. So that's
I do like, though, that quest is sort of a reference to the Courageous Kobold and the Wickless Candle story from the fairy tale book. Because in that quest, they talk about the Wickless Candle, like the sun.
Yeah,
I thought that was
I've got that. I've got that book as well. I don't think I got to that story yet, so I'll have to grab it and reread it because, yeah, I'm suddenly interested in Kobold lore now. Let's go.
Right? And I'm like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
Like, drop the Warcraft wiki page, and I'm like, wow, we know nothing.
They like candles, and they are good XP in Elwyn Forest.
Ooh.
That's it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the interesting lore tidbits and all the interesting quests. There is a little quest, like you said earlier. There's a goblin that has you hand out leaflets for a spa, which the Earthen like, well, we've got a spa right here, or I'll see if I can make space in my schedule for that, and they're not really all that interested. And you get the breadcrumb quest to that spa, and at the spa area there is like one quest. So I'm pretty sure like that area is not finished yet. There's way more area there than there is quest filling. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll go back there at some time during the alpha and beta to get up to some shenanigans with the goblins.
When we go there too, they talk about how they just built the spa around Inner Earthen, and so when you go through it, there's literally, I guess,
man, that's a graveyard.
Like, yeah, like earthen corpses, and it feels so awkward and bad. Like it's the most goblin thing to do.
I was about to say, like, that's okay. That's part of the course for goblins, then.
But it's also so cringe that I hope that we deal with it because it just feels bad.
Like imagine like an Earthen suddenly waking up like, why am I dressed up in all this goblin shit? Yeah, I do. I assume it'll be an off-screen thing. Yeah. But I sort of hope that all of the Earthen that we've seen go inert, that we can bring them to the Hall of Awakening and like wake them up. But I sort of, and this may be too outside the scope of the quests, but I wonder if there's an ethical question in if these Earthen have shut down and sort of done the equivalent of dying. Should we?
Which ones, like, should we bring them all back? Like, is there a DNR here, essentially? Like a do not resuscitate? Because I don't know if it feels like it lessens the emotional impact, or if there's certain storylines like the one. It's
pretty much like, oh, we're in a Marvel we're in a Marvel universe. You never die. You always come back.
Yeah. Because there's that quest on the Isle of Dorn where you go through the motions to prepare that Earthen for his shutdown, and it's so emotional. I feel like he made peace with it, and to come back like 3 seconds later and be like, never mind, we fixed the Hall of Awakening, let's go charge you up.
Let's go charge you up and, reset your memories to factory default so you can work another 50 millennia. Because
that's true.
That's also something, it's not just recharging them, it's like, okay, their memories are still full, so they still need to, that'll be like part of the whole, we haven't fixed it yet. We still need to fix the second machine, because otherwise these Earthen are going to live. That's good. They're going to get crazy, wacky super dementia while they'll keep on living. But yeah.
No, that's a really good point, because like all of their memories will be rewritten. They still can't access that old information. And so it would effectively be like being reincarnated, I guess, living a new life, which they sort of do anyway. But at least before they had access to the archives. So that I'm very curious then when we'll get around to fixing that, or if that may happen during like the Earthen recruiting storyline.
Yeah, we'll see. We should be getting. The Earthen. I'm pretty sure on the alpha we can create Earthen characters now. can we also do the Earthen intro quest? We just can't do the Earthen unlock quest yet, I think.
Oh, I haven't made one yet, so...
Yeah, me neither. So we probably should have done that before this. Anyway.
for another video in the future.
Gives us something to talk about in another episode of the Decoded podcast season within. And on that note, I do believe we have exhausted our points list for today. Do you have anything? Any final thoughts?
Not really. I just think there's still a few side quests I have to do, but I think my favorite one really was with the Earthen, who was a compiler. If only because I related to it. I was like, you're a compiler? Yo, me too. But also because I thought it was cool to
I'm also somewhat of a compiler.
Yeah, to get a look at what other Titan edicts were like, because we saw the machine speakers, we saw like the storm guard, very standard things, and then someone who's literal like god Titan given purpose was like record history as a person. I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah, we'll definitely hopefully we'll dive into that some further. But for now, I think that is it. So thank you all for keeping us company, watching this episode. Keep an eye out on our Twitter, twitter.com/thelostcodex for when we have another episode coming up. We will probably keep on doing these Decoded episodes, at least for every zone as it gets unlocked on the alpha. And then afterwards, whenever there is interesting stuff happening, interesting new unlocks or whatever. Yeah. So next up should be a Decoded episode for Harrowfall. Hellowfall? What was it?
Hellowfall.
Hellowfall. Next one should be for Hellowfall, where we join Anduin. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And in the meantime, have a good one, and we hope to see you on the Isle of Dorn, Kaz Algar. We hope to see you on Kaz Algar.